From Studio DRC at the Daytona Regional Chamber of Commerce, this is the Crest of the Wave.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the initial episode, the inaugural episode of Crest of the Wave here at the Daytona Regional Chamber from Studio DRC. My name's Ken Phelps, Vice President of Resource Development here at the Daytona Regional Chamber, and glad to be joined in this historic episode by our President and CEO, Nancy Keefer, and our 2024 Chair of the Board, Mike Sibley. It's kind of cool to have you both in the studio and be talking about this and doing this that we've been talking about for almost a year now.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to share what we've been visioning for many years now. So thank you, Mike, for being here to kick off our podcast studio.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm honored to be kind of the first guest, so to speak, on this podcast. This is really exciting. I'm excited about it. I know we've been talking about this for a long time, and so I can't wait to dig into more thoughts as we go here on this podcast. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I think back, Mike and I were talking a little bit before we started recording about thinking back to the board planning session from last fall, and every different group had ideas to generate podcasts. And so that was maybe the main theme that came out of that. So it really, this launches a new format, and we've talked about a little bit internal with staff. It really launches a new era of communication from the Daytona Regional Chamber and a lot of possibilities I think that are really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as a Chamber of Commerce, we kind of have to lead in these new technologies. So this is really an opportunity for us to bring a product to the community that I think will, be very well accepted by our business community and, give us a lot of possibilities and how we make people realize what a great place this is to do business, all the products and services that we have right here in our own backyard. But again, take it to the next level. As we all know, trends are people want quick information. They want to listen to things and look at them rather than read. So we're just hoping that we're going to, inspire others to take a look at their communications.
Well, I think going back to the board retreat, I don't think I've ever heard the word podcast said so many times by every group. And so I even had to build it into what we were talking about at the annual meeting and everything else. So it's good. It's finally here. It's like, it's almost losing like, hey, when are we going to get there? When are we going to get there? And here we are. But, I do agree that this evolution that we're taking here for a chamber, chambers oftentimes are just thought of as maybe networking or whatever, but we've done so much work and still, like you said, Nancy, leading this next stage, this evolution of saying, hey, we're different. We're bringing something different. We're delivering information in a different way. I think it's really cool, and I think it's what our business community needs for us. But, it goes back to all the leadership that we've had throughout the years that trying to stay ahead of what is needed out there. I mean, it's just phenomenal. We're at this point.
When I think we're able to do this now because we've got this fabulous studio in a wonderful brand new Daytona Regional Chamber offices and the technology that exists in the building, that kind of transition to the first part of the conversation I wanted to engage in with the two of you, and that is the process. And we had a board meeting yesterday from the day we're recording this, but Nancy, you mentioned this isn't just hey, let's do a renovation. The process is years long. So can take us back to the initial kind of the forming of a building task force, and what were some of the conversations like to decide what is the next era?
Yeah, a lot of people think things just happen, but I can tell you this came out of a 2017 strategic plan. We were looking forward to what we felt was going to be going on in our community. How were businesses going to be growing? How were they going to be communicating? And, looking at the building as a whole, we wanted it to be a chamber that when you walked into it, you thought, this chamber really gets it. This is a progressive chamber. At that time, we took a look at a lot of opportunities. So we looked at leasing properties. We looked at building. We looked at renovating this building, which was actually the third thing on the list at that point in time. We're in a nearly 40-year-old building, but the one thing you can't replicate is the piece of land we sit on and the surroundings. So that kept rising up to the top. So, we have this conversation. We do about a year's worth of really strong due diligence, looking at the finances, looking at what it would mean for this organization, looking at where the chamber's going to be. Are we going to have more staff? Are we going to have less staff? Are we going to have a need for additional meeting space in our community? What do we want for our business community? So, at that time, we're plugging away. 2018, we formed this task force. We worked diligently for a couple of years looking at floor plans, bringing an architect in to look at how sound this building is. 2020, we start to move ahead with approvals from our board to, take a look at the top floor and maybe the lobby. That's where we were in 2020. Got approval from our board of directors and our foundation, who actually owns this building. And this was February of 2020. So what happened shortly thereafter?
Can't remember at all.
Yeah. We hit COVID and we hit a pause.
How long was that pause from the time the conversation stopped where it's, okay, this is really going to be a serious issue that's not going away quickly, to when, okay, I think we're kind of past it and we can pick up the conversation again? What was that time period?
So I think we reconvened back in July of 2021.
Yeah, it was.
So, yeah, and at that point we had learned lessons during COVID. Actually, Mike, we've talked about this before, is that we were actually so far ahead of the game in our thought process about building a hub for business. And it became even more apparent during COVID that this was probably going to change the way companies do business. Are people going to return to the offices? Will they need a place to land, to check email, to meet in a collaborative environment? Will more people be working out of their home but don't necessarily want people in their homes? So that was a big part of the decision. And at that point, we got, even more inspirational, so to say, and looked at the entirety of the building minus about 1,800 square feet for a tenant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, it is funny because when you think back, COVID did obviously change the way businesses operate in a lot of ways, with the work from home or the work from wherever, and you add in the technology side of things where people work out of their cars, or, and I started thinking about how great it is for somebody that doesn't have an office, needs to meet a prospect, needs to meet a client, needs to meet with someone, and hey, there's space here. And COVID, with those kind of changes, it just goes back to how forward thinking you guys were back in 2017, saying, hey, we need something different here. We need to have a place that our members can use, that the community has access to some degree. And so yeah, in 2021 we started ramping back up. It was still a little bit scary because we're talking about the fundraising side of things after just coming out of COVID and realizing, okay, I think we're going to be okay. The world's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And fortunately, Florida was a leader in staying ahead of things and keeping business going. And I think that helped us be able to have the confidence to go forward. And then, once the committee got back together, it was kind of guns a-blazing. Let's do this. Let's set the stage and really do this right. And when you started seeing the architecture drawings and going through all the planning and fine tuning, it was really amazing. Of course, when you see drawings and all that, I can't take that and put it into something that is real like this, because when I first walked in, it was like, whoa, this is even more than I imagined.
Yeah, agreed. I know, and as Nancy shared, one of the exciting things for, I think, us as staff, and I know for me individually, when you're doing this, you're like, okay, gosh, I hope we have the support to be able to do this, and what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
And through the process, every time a commitment would come in, and Nancy would come in and share, and these commitments weren't like, hey, we're going to give you $500 or we're going to give you $1,000. These were significant commitments, mm-hmm. and it was such an incredible affirmation of the work that the entire team has done, the volunteer leadership, going back many years. Nancy, what are your thoughts on, as you think back and making those asks, and as Mike kind of alluded to, it's like, geez, we're in a really new business era coming out post-pandemic. What was that like to be able to go and have that positive reaction from our membership?
Well, first and foremost, you surround yourself with really bright people in the community that have a lot of connections, and that's exactly what our board is composed of, and what the people who served on the task force. Mm-hmm. They were so committed to this vision. They were in from day one. So, intentionally they said, hey, those of us sitting around the table, let's commit to something so we can start this really strong. What they did was also help us leverage, partnerships in the community through a grant and some work with the city. But, back to your question, Ken, I think it really showcases how much this business community cares mm-hmm. about the future of the chamber, about us being the leader and bringing people together. I hate to, say it too much, but it almost wasn't as hard as they thought it was going to be. And I think it's because we did work on the relevance of the chamber. We worked on so hard on making us the chamber of choice, so to say, for business, to come to us for help. So it's years before we even start talking about a building that really leads up to that lift to raise money in the community.
Well, like you said, it is an affirmation of what the chamber's done. But if you look back, these relationships have been around for a long time, and the work that the chamber goes back decades and decades and decades, right? So, and even when you think about, yesterday we were talking at the board meeting, just on a side of some of the things going on in the community, and it's often, let's get the chamber thought on this. Where did they stand on these things? And that's why we have our where we stand on things, and we get involved in issues. And I think the business community sees that. The business community isn't going to put all the money that we put into this for the sake of putting it in, right? There's a meaning behind that, and they see. And as a sponsor, we see the value that the chamber brings to this community, actually beyond the community. And when you think about now getting other chambers looking at, hey, how did you do this? So we're a leader within chambers. And I know the Florida Chamber has reached out to us on different aspects before. And Nancy, you're involved. And Ken, you've been, so it's really cool because now we're actually transcending beyond just the community. And I think we all see that as the business community. And that's why I think the support was there. But the support was laid by past leadership, past staffs, even beyond, before you guys were around, before I was around, and goes back decades. And you just don't build that overnight. Yeah. It doesn't happen like that. And you don't just get the commitment because you go ask and have a building you're going to do. There's just more to it than that.
Yeah, and I just would add to that, everybody, regardless of whether you wrote a big check, from our membership standpoint, played a role in it, because we've been over the years very good stewards of the fiscal responsibility here that we have as a Chamber of Commerce to our members. We're really keeping our bottom line tight. We're making sure everything we do is a product or a service for our business community that they can participate in. And all of that leads to having a strong financial foundation. So I think it's important for people to understand that, over the years, as we built our reserves based on good fiscal stewardship, the Chamber was able to commit $500,000 out of their reserves. Our foundation was able to commit $500,000 out of their reserves. Now, what that means is we have skin in the game, and we're setting the stage that we believe in this so much, that we're going to take the money out of our account and be the seed to get this started.
Yeah, that to me is that forward thinking. Say, hey, we need to evolve as an organization. The business community doesn't necessarily need us to be what we were in the past. And, Ken and I were talking about this earlier, you start looking at all different aspects. Our advocacy side of things is evolving. We're getting into, candidates and interviewing candidates and even endorsing in some cases. And our educational standpoint, we can do so much more now. And now we can deliver information in a whole new way. And so, and we haven't even started talking about the collaborative side of things and the technology that's in this building yet, which was one of the key things. I know you and I talked about that a lot, is like, let's max out everything we can. You're like, I'm already over it. I'm doing it. We're maxing everything we can, because I love the technology side, but technology can go obsolete so quickly. We really need to be thinking on that side of things. So it's a really cool endeavor that we've got here.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because one of the very cool things about this building has been the change in energy of people coming into the building. So we've got more meeting space now than we ever did before. Prior to the renovation, we had one room. If it was booked, even our own committees, more than one committee meeting at the same time, one had to go somewhere else, and we don't have that challenge anymore. But like the use of the building, Nancy, I know one of your favorite things. You come in and you see people in the lobby or in the heads down room or in the meeting rooms, and that really makes you proud of kind of where we're going as a chamber. Can you talk about like what you've seen and how businesses, small and large, are able to come in and use this space to collaborate?
Yeah, I mean, when you see the vision for what this board and the past leadership had as we looked at this project come to fruition so quickly, I mean, there's really not a day that we're in here that somebody's not sitting somewhere in the lobby, sitting in one of our plug and play areas, using the heads down room. They've meandered up to the small conference room. The usage that we've been requested for the space has been quicker than what we ever anticipated. So to see, you work so hard on something and you hope. Your hope is that their people are going to use it. And it's all across the board. It's elected officials popping in with people, business people they want to talk to. It's synergy between our economic development staff with the city space. It's people we don't even know. I mean, we've had a number of, I think, students maybe using our plug and play area doing some homework because, I mean, gosh, why wouldn't you want to look out at the Intercoastal and be inspired?
Exactly. Right.
So it's like I said, I get excited because it's come quicker than what I expected, but it was the vision. So I'm happy to see that, and it is really each and every day. As a matter of fact, today we're going to have about 70 people in this building to do a tour from Hungary. So awesome. Again, it's just the interest out there is far beyond what I thought it would be at this stage.
Mike, your perspective from your volunteer leader, but also member, and so you see how like these spaces could be used. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, just to jump on the excitement side first. When we had the grand opening and walked in here, just watching everybody's faces was probably the most fun part of it because it just everybody is wild. So, but I kind of have this vision. A lot of take management teams. You got a company that's got a management team. A lot of times they'll do offsites. And this is a great place to do an offsite. Like you said, we're right next to the Intercoastal, but I kind of have this vision of you come in, you've got the technology, you can hook up, you can use the screens in there, you can get a good sized team together to work through, have your collaborative session, and then by the way, why not walk across the street at the end of the day and watch a baseball game? I think that to me is one of the cool things. So I do think that as this just gets more and more out there as people realize that there's this capability here, this area right here. This is going to get used a lot. I think you're going to get to the point where like, hey, we got to really put some scheduling effort here on this stuff. But no, I really think of the offsites. Like I said earlier, the prospect meetings. I'm often driving out and around, and or if I'm here for a board meeting or other meeting, and I just need a few minutes because I've got something else. Pop in, set up the laptop, do some work. It's that convenience factor. And it's the fact that it's a beautiful location. It's a beautiful building. And you've got access to so many things just in this area right from here. So, I really look at it from the standpoint that, you look at management teams, sales teams, businesses that just want to get away from their business. Because offsites are important when you think about it, right? If you're trying to do a strategy session and you're in your building, you're going to get distracted with everything that's going on in the day-to-day stuff. It's really hard to do. So this is a place that you can come to and do that. So I think the options are just limitless, what a business can do here.
Yeah, and I just want to share, a real life example of what Mike kind of just talked about, or what we're talking about, like the energy in this building. Our regional business connection groups now, we can bring them back in-house to meet, and that's 20 to 30 businesses that meet every single week. Sharing leads, sharing what's going on in their business, what's going on in the community. So it was I can't remember which day of the week it was, but we had a full room, right in the Brown and Brown Business Center, which everything is glass here. So there's no hiding. You're working or you're not working. Right. But a person walked in off the street and he looked in that room and he just went, I don't know what's going on in there, but I want to be a part of it. It's a true story. Lori, our director of business development, came out and we sold a membership just like that.
Wow.
Again, that's the visual seeing and feeling of the energy that this new building brings.
Well, it's community in the truest sense of the word, and that's what he felt the need to be a part of. I can share an example from my experience. We had a member of our Leadership Daytona Alumni Council who was going to have to leave a meeting early to get back to his office to jump on a virtual meeting. And we were talking. He said, well, wait a minute. Do you have a place that I could just pull up my laptop and join the Teams meeting I need to be on? I said, absolutely. We've got multiple places. He goes, great. I don't have to leave the meeting then. I was literally just going to drive 15 minutes back to my office to go on a virtual meeting. And he ended up being in our heads down room, which was great. And so it made his day more efficient. So we've got just a few minutes left. I want to touch on a question and ask your thoughts. And this is maybe the hardest question asked today. What is your favorite feature of the new building, because there are a lot of features to this new building. So I'll leave it up to each of you to decide who goes first.
Mike, you go first.
I'm going to go first. Okay. You know, I was thinking about this as I saw your outline for some of the conversation. Obviously, it's a great location. You got the beautiful scenery, the river, everything right out there. The technology. I love the James Moore space, by the way. That's you know, but you know, I'll put that aside. The coffee, you know, everything. The technology is great, but I still come back to the collaborative space, and we've been talking about that a lot on this session. But for so long, to have the space, the rooms available for people to hook up a laptop, to have a prospect meeting, to do collaborative sessions with their management team or whatever. It really comes down to the availability of the space, the access, even the after hours access now that is available. To me, that is really what brings people together. Like Nancy just shared with that RBC group, somebody walking in and seeing this. That's the power. That's what brings the energy. The technology, awesome. The podcast studio is maybe my second favorite thing. Only because we've been talking about podcasts, but I have to go with the space and the availability of the space.
Yeah, you know, we really touched on mine throughout the entire podcast here. The vision to bring all this natural beauty into our building is what has been the favorite of mine, because I see people walk in here and you almost see stress drain off from them. They're like, this is amazing. So to me, just the entire vision to bring natural light, to make everything look state of the art. You know, there's not a detail that's been missed. You look at our furniture, you look at, you know, everything here in the building, and it all flows together. And trust me, when you're dealing with 15,000 square feet of space, you got to really think about that. So I, you know, like a parent can't pick a favorite child. I'm going to go very broad, and I'm going to say, you know, that it really, we talked a lot about the fact that the new energy in the building, and I'm so proud to see the staff collaborating a lot. They're in our collaboration rooms, in our kitchen, our new break area, and they're constantly working together. That's new. I mean, they always worked together, but it was behind closed doors. So just that living off from that is really pretty incredible.
I would agree. Last question for each of you. What do you see as the next era of the Daytona Regional Chamber? And Mike and I talked a little bit beforehand. We're almost at a point where it's blank canvas, so it really could go anywhere. Like, what are some initial thoughts of what do you see the next 1, 2, 5 years for this organization?
Oh, wow, that's a loaded question.
No kidding.
Yeah, and you know, again, I see it's what the business community needs, and what we need is for our business community to come in here, see the facility, use the facility, tell us how we can help them more. You're going to see a lot more events and calendaring and programming for training. You know, just one-offs with people that are really important for the business community. We want to be that go-to resource. And so that's where I see this lending more opportunity for cooperation and collaboration with many partners in the community.
Yeah. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Well, conveniently, we are going to start our next phase of a strategic plan here soon. So, but I agree, it is an open slate, and I'll go back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier on. We continue to evolve as an organization. So, you know, what we look like right now, even though we're continuing to evolve now, we're going to be different in 5 or 7 years, and that's a great thing, because that means our business community needs are being met. But I do see advances in how we can provide information. I see advances in how we can do educational outreach, the collaboration side of things. That while we've got members that realize we're here, once that word really gets out and we start really spreading that word, that's going to change the dynamics of what we can do, because then that's going to build into other programming, other avenues of resources. And one of the things that we're doing actively now is we do a lot of surveys. We're trying to get more information from members. We're trying to data mine a lot more. Hey, you guys are using AI now, right? So, though all of those things mean we're trying to be on the forefront of what the business needs, and I think that's really what I think defines us as a chamber, as being on the forefront of what the businesses need and adding these things. So what we're doing now is probably going to be different in a couple of years from now.
Well, I want to thank you both for not only being our first guests on Crest of the Wave, the new Daytona Regional Chamber podcast, but also for your leadership over these last several years. This doesn't happen without consistent leadership on the staff side, and a consistent quality of leadership from board chairs through the past. And that is one of the unique challenges of this industry is every year the leadership changes a little bit and new vision comes in. But it's remarkable to me in this community how consistent the vision is in terms of the vision is excellence. The details might change from year to year, but I think every year we have excellent vision. So thank you both for being part of this first episode.
Yeah, glad to be here. This is a lot of fun.
Well, for those of you that are watching, we're excited to launch this new era of the Daytona Regional Chamber. We hope that you will be part of this journey with us. The only ask is subscribe, share, let people know what we're doing here, and we hope that you found this entertaining and valuable, a little peek inside the renovation and a launch of the new era of the Daytona Regional Chamber. And we'll see you next time here on the Crest of the Wave.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. For more information on our business community, visit our website at daytonachamber.com. Until next time, be ready to catch the next Crest of the Wave.